When it comes to protecting yourself and your loved ones, you deserve the best. This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance, an Alera Group company. We believe that obtaining life insurance should be affordable and worry-free. As an independent auto owners insurance agency, we work with top-notch carriers to find the best policy for your unique needs. You can rest assured that you're getting the best coverage and the best price. Quality First Insurance, 435-752-0101.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without a homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
Good morning and welcome to another beautiful Saturday morning as we kick off the Garden Guide. I'm Will Feelwright, joining in the studio with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden. And you know, Mark, over the last week, all of us kind of have come to the realization that Mother Nature once again skipped spring on us and just jumped right into summer.
But a very long, extended, wet spring.
Yeah, and it just, boy.
And then summer's here.
There was no transition, just bam. You know, 2 weeks ago we were talking about how we had freezing temperatures, and now we're talking about being close to breaking high temperatures.
Yes.
So, quite a change in the weather.
After 3 months of below normal average temperatures, we'll take some hot.
Yeah, really nice.
My garden's jumping like crazy though, so stuff is like putting on inches every day. So yeah. So it's kind of nice to watch the garden grow. Have needed that heat. The soil's been kind of cold, so for some people things haven't wanted to germinate, things haven't wanted to come up. Yeah, and then it's just kind of been sitting there, not doing very much. So a little extra heat's not gonna hurt at all. Yeah, it's not gonna hurt at all. So.
Well, and I'm sure everybody's been asking, how are your pumpkins doing? Everybody's wanting an update on these.
Pumpkins are doing great. In fact, they are about 11 feet long now, and they're putting out side shoots. So last night I did a little fertilizing and then started covering up some of the nodes where they'll root. Yeah, so I've got some. So I've started putting some soil on top of those to get them to root down. But they're starting to spread. I picked the first female blossom off the other day before it got pollinated, so it was too close to the root system.
Okay.
Yeah, so you want to wait until they're about 12 to 15 feet long before you pollinate
let them start
a fruit. Yeah, so you want them quite a ways away from where the vine comes up out of the ground. Otherwise, the plants aren't big enough to sustain the pumpkin, and if they're too close to the vine, it'll pull the root system up out of the ground. So as the pumpkin gets really big, you got to have a little bit of room for the vine to
take off.
to spread.
Okay.
Yeah, to spread.
So 11 feet?
11 feet, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's probably 3 to 4 feet wide now. So I had to increase the size of my pumpkin enclosure. So...
Well, and for those who have maybe been dragging their feet, or in our family's case, we've been gone out of the area for a while, this is the weekend. Perfect weekend to get out there and get things planted if you haven't already.
Yeah, yep.
That's what we're going to be doing.
We've got everything planted in our garden now, except I saved a little bit of room for a couple extra rows of corn. So I'm going to plant a little bit more corn, and then our peas are in full bloom right now. So as soon as the peas are done, we could actually plant a couple more rows of corn, so we could have some later corn, or we could plant some more beans, or there's a lot of different things you can recycle some of that space. So where the spinach and lettuce is, once those are gone, we'll be able to plant some other stuff in those areas and recycle some of that space.
Okay.
So, yeah, should work out pretty well. Right. And it's not too late to plant anything. I had a bunch of people in this week. They're like, "Oh, it's the 5th of June. You know,
it's too late.
It's too late." And it's like, no. It's like there's a whole bunch of people that have just barely gotten stuff planted. So tons of time for basically everything. At this point, probably the only thing that I wouldn't plant for like right now would be like spinach, lettuce, radishes, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli. It's a little late for those. Kale could still handle it. It can handle the heat a little bit better. But all those cold crops we can plant the end of July, 1st of August. So maybe in about 8 weeks, you could plant those, and then they'll mature in September and October when it's cooler, and those varieties will do really well in a September, October maturing time, and you'll be able to harvest those early vegetables again. So
hardy enough they can handle the cooler temperatures.
Yeah, they can handle frost and cold, and they do not do well when it's really, really hot. And so planting them later in the summer so that they can mature when the temperatures are cooling down, they'll do much better. Especially Brussels sprouts. I've had really good results doing Brussels sprouts in the fall. So, but lettuce and spinach, super easy. You can harvest those in like 60 days. So plant those around the 10th of August, and then they'll be ready by about the 10th of October, which is just like perfect. Yeah, just perfect. So looks like we got a phone call already.
We do already. So let's go out to the phones, and then we'll talk more about what's going on at Anderson Seed and Garden over the next couple of weekends. But Kathy's joining us first from Dayton. Kathy, welcome to the show this morning.
Good morning. I have a very strange question. I have a large garden, all clay. Play-Doh would make money here. It's terrible. But I want to plant raspberries someplace.
Yes.
And I've just thought maybe there's something I could do now and get the garden ready so that maybe next year I can plant raspberries.
Absolutely. So whatever you can do to add organic matter to that soil would be really good. When I'm conditioning clay, and we've conditioned clay at our place before and other garden areas, as much organic matter as possible, but use varieties of different things. So a little bit of compost and some leaves and some grass clippings and some peat moss and some coconut coir. Straw works great, and just start adding those into the soil a little bit at a time. This time of year, if you're going to leave it fallow and not plant anything in there, you could do a couple inches of 2 or 3 different materials and then work that in, and then maybe in a couple months do it again, and then this fall do it one more time. And there are some cover crops you could grow that would be great to incorporate back into the soil. So buckwheat's really good, clover. For breaking up clay, usually they'll say, oats or barley is really good. And just let them grow to 6 or 8 inches. You can cut them down and then till them right back into the soil. It'll loosen the soil up. And then one of my go-tos for clay is zeolite. The zeolite really helps break up the clay particles because it doesn't break down over time, and so it'll just stay out there, but it'll also make your soil so it holds more moisture. So small increments of multiple items. Add some humate and some nitrogen when you do that to help decompose those, to break them down a little bit faster. You need the microbes and the microorganisms that are in the humate, and then the nitrogen to help break all that stuff down. And you could have your soil really quite well conditioned by next year, for sure.
Okay, and one more question.
Yeah.
I was going to plant beets, and it says it's a cold season crop. Should I just wait till later in the year to plant them, or what should I do with them?
We put beets into our B category, which means they can handle the cold, but they will do fine in warmer temperatures. And so you could plant beets like right now, and you'll be harvesting beets in 75 days. So beets and carrots and parsnips, they all take about 75 to 90 days, and you can plant them right now, no problem.
So if I plant those now, then I could plant spinach after they came up.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Okie doke. Thank you very much.
No worries, Kathy. Thanks for calling this morning. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
All right.
Yeah, and phone lines are open, 753-5868 or 1-800-369-5868 if you have a question or comment for Mark. Now,
there's a couple cool things going on downtown, especially this weekend, too.
Yeah, the tree climbing competition.
Yeah. So it's the ISA tree climbing competition, and apparently it's been over 20 years since it's been in Utah, and it's here in Cache Valley this year, and they've got the tree climbing competition right downtown at the Tabernacle. Yeah. So that goes from 8 until I think 3 today. So if you want to see some amazing skills, go down to the Tabernacle today.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll be climbing some of the biggest trees in the valley.
Yeah, they've got some of the best there.
Oh, yeah. Amazing. Very, 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 very cool. So that's going on from 8 to 3 right downtown at Logan Tabernacle Square. So, yeah, very cool.
Now, as far as for things happening at the store today and this next week, we're kind of getting close to Father's Day, so a lot of people thinking, hey, what could I get Dad
for Father's Day? Yeah, we just got a whole bunch more shrubs and flowers and perennials in, so we restocked the greenhouses again this weekend, and so we've got a really great selection of vegetable plants, lots and lots of small vegetables, whether it's cucumbers or melons or squashes. We've got lots of those, so definitely not too late to plant those. And lots of tomatoes and peppers as well, too. So we just got a great selection of those in. Lots and lots of flowers, perennials. I think we got in about 1,000 perennials yesterday.
Oh, wow.
so lots of perennials.
Lots to choose from.
Yeah, lots of perennials to choose from. And boy, our trees are looking great. We've got some gorgeous trees. Fruit trees are on sale, so they are 30% off on all of our fruit trees. So we've got actually a really good selection of apples and pears, but I've got peaches and apricots and cherries that normally this time of year we don't have any peaches left, like no peaches left. But I think the nectarines are all gone, so no nectarines. But good selection on those, 30% off on the fruit trees. Of course, we're brewing compost tea on a daily basis, so lots and lots of compost tea going out. So we're almost running out of our 1-gallon containers. So I think what we've got on the shelf is about all I've got left on the 1-gallon container. So we're starting to run out. So if you still want to grab some compost tea, there's still 1-gallon containers, but we're long out of 2.5s.
Okay. Or you could bring, if you are like me, you've got a gallon container you've used over the years, bring it in, just relabel it.
Yep, exactly. So if you bought 2.5-gallon containers last year and you still have those, or even the year before, you can bring those back in and we'll relabel them for 2024 and you'll be set. You'll be ready to go. The compost tea makes such a difference. You can just watch your plants just like jump. And we planted all the planters on Center Street this week. So Monday we planted all the plants out there, and you'd think with the temperature changing and with the heat, and the plants would be stressing, and they're just starting to grow like crazy. So just after 4 days, they are already starting to grow because we hit them with the compost tea the day that we planted them, and then again later this week. And so they're just starting to take off. Yeah, they're just starting to take off. So
great.
So compost tea is a brewing, and next week is Summerfest.
That's right. Yeah.
So we got Summerfest. So at the fairgrounds, Summerfest next weekend. So lots of fun things going on here in Cache Valley.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go back out to the phones, and we can talk more about things going on here in just a minute. But first, let's take a call from Dick in Logan. Dick, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mark, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine. Hey, tell me, my strawberries are getting ready. They're just starting to look like they're going to start turning red. What do I do to keep the birds and I guess the squirrels out of them?
Yes, that is a great question. And it's crazy. You do have squirrels down in your neighborhood. So they're running around all over the place, those squirrels. So there's some netting that works very, very well for the birds. But you've got to make sure and get it so it's not like laying right on the plants. So you need just a little structure or something to get the cover off the berries, because the birds will land on the netting and then just like peck the berries right through the netting. But the netting does do a good job. The squares of the net are probably about 1 inch by 1 inch, and so it will definitely keep the birds out, but they can peck through it. So I would use a trellis of some sort to just get it 12 inches up off the ground so that the birds can't get in there and get to those strawberries, because they like strawberries as much as I do. They love those berries, so they'll get right in there, and it'll keep the squirrels out as well too. So the squirrels won't get into your berries that way.
Can you have the netting?
I do. It comes in a bunch of different sizes. So I have pre-cut pieces that are 14 by 14. I have some longer ones that are like 7 by 21. And of course, you can take the 14 by 14 and cut those if you need to. You could cut it into like, if your rows are long and narrow, you could cut them into 4 foot wide, 14 4 foot wide and 14 feet long, and then just like do multiple layers that way. But for the birds, the netting works great. I do have some bird scare tape that's really helpful too. So we'll put like 3-foot stakes up and just stick those in the ground, and then put the tape on the top and leave the streamers about 2 or 3 feet long. And so they're very reflective, and so when the wind blows, they'll move and they reflect light, and it'll scare the birds, and it'll drive them away. So they'll go somewhere else, kind of initiates their flight response, and that actually works really pretty well for the birds also. So you could try both.
Hey, wonderful! Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'll be over for strawberries and cream later.
Yes,
great.
Good enough to share.
Thanks, Dick.
Phone lines
Bye.
open, 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. If you have a question, comment for Mark. We've been talking about gardens. We probably ought to talk about lawns, too, because as I look around our neighborhood, clover still seems to be just taking off.
Yeah.
Morning glory is everywhere.
Yeah.
And a lot of lawns now suffering some heat.
Tons of weeds.
Yeah.
Just tons and tons of weeds. And then now it's gotten hot, and if you don't adjust your sprinklers accordingly, then it could be a little bit problematic. And our grass was starting to stress a little bit, but we hadn't really turned our sprinklers on a whole lot. And we put our fertilizer on fairly early. It was the end of March when we put ours on. So by now that fertilizer has pretty much run out. You're going to get like 8 weeks, maybe 10 weeks out of your fertilizer. So our 10 weeks were up. Yeah. And so this is the time of year I like to put my Hydrotain on, and then we put Fertilome's Green Maker on. And the Green Maker is a slow-release nitrogen with a 5% iron in there, and it really, really greens the lawn up. And then we did some Humate as well, too. So we did Humate to help perk the grass back up, and then the Green Maker from Fertilome, and then Hydrotain to help it absorb and retain the moisture. And it's amazing how much of a difference the Hydrotain makes. I mean, we're talking 30 to 50% less water to do the same job as what you were doing previously. So if you're watering on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, you could take one of those days out of the mix. You could take like Wednesday out and do like Mondays and Fridays, and your grass would look as good as if you were doing the 3 applications.
As if you were watering 3 days.
Yeah, with the Hydrotain on there. And the Hydrotain will last 90 days. So you put it on what is it today? The 8th of June. It will last until basically the 8th of September, and it will get you through the entire summer, all the hot, dry part of the summer, and you'll be using a lot less water to keep your lawn and landscape. You can use the Hydrotain in your vegetable garden as well, too. So whatever we can do to reduce the amount of water that we need to use to maintain our yards and gardens, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Well, I know for weeds, I have become a big fan of Spurge Power.
Oh, the Spurge Power is awesome.
We stopped by 2 weeks ago, grabbed a bottle of that, then also mixed it with a sticker, and applied that before we left on our trip. We had clover everywhere.
Yeah.
And came home, little clumps of dead clover in the yard. It was beautiful to see. The only thing I found was there were some spots I had missed.
Oh, yes. You got to go back and hit those. Back and hit those. It's also good to like throw a little bit of grass seed in where the dead spots are. So then it will kind of fill in and take over where the weeds were. Yeah. So if you kill all these weeds off, like I've got somebody that sent me pictures the other day, and I looked at their yard and it's like, is there even any grass in there? Yeah. You know, it's like there's so many weeds, and like, the grass is kind of underneath the weeds, and weeds were so aggressive. It's like, all right, we're going to spray with this product. It's going to kill it within a week or 10 days. It'll be completely gone. But then make sure and overseed with some new grass, and let the grass take the place of the weeds, so you don't have just like more weeds coming back again. And the Spurge Power is super effective on some of the hardest to kill weeds. So it will get morning glory and thistles and mallow and clover. And it does a really good job on clover, but it will get wild violets, and it will kill horsetail rush, the snake grass. People call it snake grass. Yeah. So kind of a more of aquatic plant, but then once you get the snake grass into your flower beds or whatever, it's like impossible to get rid of. The Spurge Power actually work on that. It works really well. So it's going to kill everything except grass, basically.
Yeah, it worked great, and going to just have to hit a couple more spots that I missed, and
you have to
finally get those.
You have to be super careful with it because it will kill flowers and shrubs and trees and vegetables and all that stuff as well too. But if you keep it on the turf, it won't hurt your turf, but it will kill basically everything else. And it is super effective on those really, really hard to kill weeds. If you really need to get into, like the patio or some areas where you've got, maybe say puncture vine or some morning glory that's taken off, you can use it in other areas as well. It doesn't have to be just on turf. You just have to be careful with surrounding plants because it can damage those too.
Of what it could possibly come in contact with.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Let's go out and answer another call. We have Joan joining us on the line from Millville. Joan, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. I have a peach tree that has tons of peaches on it, and I'm just wondering when and how much to,
Mine too.
Anyway.
Yeah, I have 2 peach trees that are just absolutely loaded with fruit, just completely covered. There's like clusters of 3 to 4 fruits, and they're just like all over the place. So it's so painful, Joan, to have to go do that. I hate it. It's like the one job that I absolutely hate because it's like, but you have to thin them. And so I went through and thinned mine. And when they're in clusters like that, pick the best one, but usually you want ones that are like on the lower part of the branch instead of on the upper part of the branch. So go for those lower ones. And I thinned out one of my peaches the other day. I haven't been able to get to the other one yet, but I got one of them done, and I left one fruit every 6 to 8 inches.
Okay.
I know. I took like 80%, 90% of the fruit off the tree.
It's crazy.
But if you don't, you're just going to have a lot of small fruit.
Okay.
And the quality's not as good. And
so 6 to 8 inches.
6 to 8 inches. Yeah, I know. It's like I shed a tear while I was doing it. Yeah. It's like pulling carrots out too. I hate thinning the carrots, and thinning the fruit's the worst because last year we didn't get any, and so this year they've just produced like crazy. And if you don't get them thinned, you'll probably not have very many next year again too. So.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you very much for whatever you have to do.
I'll be shedding a tear for you tonight. So,
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, thanks for calling this morning.
Bye. That opens up the phone lines at 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. We've got just a couple minutes before we hit the bottom of the hour.
Talking fruit trees, this is the weekend to start spraying your apples and pears. So Utah State has announced that the hatch of codling moth that we're experiencing right now will be at its peak in the very, very near future. And so you want to spray, they've recommended around the 5th of June.
Okay.
So this weekend is prime time for spraying. Get that cover spray on so that when the most codling moth hatch, it will take care of them. And there are multiple options that you can spray. So if you want to go with some organic options, you want to go a little more organic, a little more natural, then there's actually some really good products. So fruit tree spray from Fertilum is all natural. It's a combination of neem oil and pyrethrum. Very effective on the fruit trees. Works on some diseases as well as insects. It will last about 2 weeks. So you got to spray every 2 weeks. So if you're going to spray this weekend, make sure and spray in 2 weeks. So so the not next weekend, but the weekend after. And then if you want, there's some other organic ones like spinosad or spinosad soap would be excellent also. You're about 10 to 14 days on those. Very effective on the codling moth larva. So very, very good products. Very effective, even though they're natural. They will do a really good job. And then if you want something that's going to last a little bit longer, you really have at least three options. We've got Sayonara, which the active ingredient in there is lambda cylohethrin. Really great product. It will last 18 to 21 days, so you could spray every 3 weeks instead. And so you can do basically a multiple fewer applications. So instead of spraying every 2 weeks, which means you'll spray 6 or 7 times, you could spray every 3 weeks, which means you're only going to spray maybe 4 times for the summer. So the Sayonara would be great. The 7 would be excellent. It also is a 18 to 21 day residual. And then there's a combination insecticide fungicide product that's made by Bonide that's called Fruit Tree and Plant Guard. And that's a really good product, really new technology on that one. And that one's 21 days also. So, yeah, so those are some great products. Make sure if you want to keep the worms out of your apples and your pears, you get those sprayed this weekend. Yeah, we want to get those sprayed right away. And then the next hatch will be coming up in July. So there'll be another opportunity
all right.
for us.
So get those fruit trees sprayed. Yes. And coming up, we'll talk more about your lawn, your garden. Take more calls, 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. And to our callers, just hang on the line with us as we hit the bottom of the hour news break. And we'll be right back with more of the Garden Guide with Mark Anderson of Anderson Seed and Garden next on KVNU.
I'm Bill Walter, KBNU News. North Logan Mayor Lindsay Peterson returned to KBNU's For the People program this past week. Peterson has been part of a group spearheading the look into the feasibility of providing countywide recreation options.
I think all of us are trying to have something defined, before we understand whether we can support it or not. But I think what our vision is building one or more facilities in Cache County, and where multiple cities can come and recreate. So I think a key component, at least from the feedback I've heard, is an aquatic center, an indoor aquatic center. That has been almost universally supported by at least the people that I've talked to.
She said Logan City put out a poll with about 4,000 responses, and it came out 85% positive for supporting some sort of recreation center. The NHL team in Utah is down to 6 finalists for a name. Smith Entertainment Group announced Thursday the choices have been narrowed to Blizzard, Mammoth, Outlaws, Venom, Yeti, and Utah Hockey Club, or Utah HC. Those are the options fans have to choose from after the process started with 20 possibilities and led to 520,000 votes. The public has until the end of day June 20th in round 2 to determine the name. Owner Ryan Smith has said he expects the jerseys to have Utah on them for the inaugural season. Some clouds, but also sunshine, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms. Hot temperatures again Saturday, upper 80s, and around 90 degrees on Sunday. You can always get more news at CacheValleyDaily.com.
From ABC Sports, I'm Mark Remillard. Yankees and Dodgers knotted at 0 last night, heading into the top of the 11th. Teoscar Hernandez at the plate with runners on first and second.
Hernandez hits one hard left field. That will get down and split the gap all the way to the wall. Here comes Ohtani. Freeman follows. Teoscar Hernandez has the Dodgers in front.
On AM 570 LA Sports, the Yankees would score 1 in the bottom of the 11th, but ultimately fell 2-1, seeing their 8-game win streak snapped. Elsewhere, the Royals came back down 8-0 to walk off the Mariners 10-9. The Padres over the D-backs 10-3. The Orioles doubled up the Rays 6-3. And the White Sox's 14-game losing streak is finally over. They beat the Red Sox 7-2. Baseball heading overseas this afternoon. The 2-game MLB London series starts today between the Mets and the Phillies. First pitch at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The Stanley Cup Finals begins tonight. Game 1 in Sunrise, Florida, between the Panthers and the Oilers. Edmonton center Connor McDavid on reaching his first Cup final.
I love sports. I love hockey. I've seen lots of these days, and I've always wanted to be a part of one, so special to be here now.
The Oilers are chasing their 6th championship in their team's history, but the Panthers are hoping to win their first ever Stanley Cup, as is head coach Paul Maurice.
I need to win one. No, it's not going to change the section of my life that's not related to hockey at all. Yeah, that's just the truth. That's how I feel. I'm 30 years into this thing. Wouldn't mind winning one.
The puck drops tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on ABC. In Paris, the Women's French Open final this morning. World number 1 Iga Swiatek will face 15th-ranked Jasmine Paolini. Swiatek, the favorite, looking to capture her 4th French Open title in 6 years. I'm Mark Remillard, ABC Sports.
Keep chasing the wild, Utah. There's no better way to get out there than with the Polaris Expedition. With a long-range fuel tank, seating for up to 5, and Fox suspension, you and your crew will be riding from dawn until dusk. Polaris. Think outside.
The Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
And welcome back to the show. Enjoying a beautiful Saturday morning, sunny skies, and it looks like it's going to stay this way through the weekend and into the first of next week, with temperatures not quite as hot as we had originally been preparing for.
The weatherman's just has not been really consistent this year. So,
except in southern Utah,
yes,
where they said you're going to bake, and they have been baking.
Be hot, yeah. Well,
triple degree temperatures.
That's what you get for living in southern Utah, right?
Yep, exactly. So, hey, a lot going on at Anderson Seed and Garden. Let's mention that, and then we've got some calls that have been waiting. So.
Yes. So this week we got a whole bunch of new plants in, and we just restocked the greenhouse. So we've been talking about it not being too late to plant anything. Well, it's not too late to plant anything. So all your vegetables can still go in. Great selection of vegetables. We've got some new cucumber, squashes, melons. And then we just got some new tomatoes, some new peppers in. So we've got a great selection of all of those. But a lot of flowers as well, too. So we got some gorgeous marigolds in, lots of wave petunias, alyssum, sweet potato vines. It is absolutely not too late to plant any of that. And our temperatures are hot. They're warmer than what we've been enjoying, but not too hot to plant any of this stuff. Yeah, not too hot at all. And we just got some more raspberry plants in. It's a little bit late for raspberries, but these are in 1-gallon containers. They're all like leafed out and established. And ready to go. So these will be great if you want to add a few little raspberry plants to your raspberry patch, or start a new one possibly as well too. So we got a lot of those. And like we mentioned earlier, compost tea's going on, the tree climbing event downtown. So the ISA, the Arborist tree climbing event, I think it's like their national one, isn't it?
So this is regional, and I guess the regional winners will then go on to the national competition this fall.
Very, very cool, though. So, it's been a long time since they've had it here in Cache Valley. So yeah, very, very cool. So they are climbing trees at the Tabernacle today, and there's some amazing climbers. So if you want to see something really cool and fun, come downtown, hang out on Center Street, go check out the tree climbing event at Logan LDS Tabernacle. So
all right,
yeah, very cool.
Okay, well, we've had a couple callers hold on through the break, and so let's get right back to those calls. First, Daryl holding on the line from Providence. Daryl, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Question mark I have.
We may have a cell phone connection.
You're breaking up a little bit, Daryl.
Can you get? Let's put Daryl on hold, and we'll see if we can't get that line cleared up. And let's go out to Sharon, who's joining us on the line from Providence. Sharon, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I was listening to the lady who you suggested that she needed to thin her peaches on her tree.
Yes.
I wondered if the same thing applied to apples. We have a smaller apple tree, and it's covered in apples. Do we need to get up and pick those off? Because I can't imagine that all of those are going to get nice and big.
Yep, great question, Sharon. Yes, you want to thin your apples as well, too. And the apples are more inclined to drop off than the peaches are. And so the peaches, you got to get in there and just like physically remove the peaches. The apples, sometimes you can just like give the apples a really good shake and a lot of the fruit will fall off. But basically the same rule applies. So we want one fruit every 6 to 8 inches on the tree. Otherwise, the weight of the fruit can cause problems. It can break branches. You will have a lot of really small apples. And when they produce really heavy like that, they're inclined to not produce again the next year. And so you kind of start to go into an every other year cycle if you don't get them thinned. And so right now when you're thinning, also a really good time to fertilize your trees. So get out there and do some hand thinning as necessary. One fruit every 6 to 8 inches. And then a little bit of fertilizer for your trees, since it's a good time right now.
Will spike fertilizers work for the apple trees?
Yeah, there's a fruit tree spike that works great. Usually we recommend 1 spike to 2 spikes per inch of trunk diameter. So if your tree is 10 inches across, you're going to want to use at least 10 spikes, up to 20 spikes, and spread that out around the drip line of the tree evenly. That would work great. I have some granulated fertilizers that are really easy. You can just broadcast underneath the canopy of the trees as well, too. So there are multiple options, but it's a really good time to fertilize those trees as well.
Okay, perfect. And thank you for saying I didn't have to get up there and pick.
Yeah, the apples are a little bit more susceptible to the shaking, and there are some sprays you can put on there to get them to thin as well too. So you can use the Florel to get them to drop a little bit of fruit too. But on the lower branches where I can get to them, I usually will do some hand thinning as well. So
okay,
all right.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Sharon. Good luck.
All right, and that clears up phone line at 753-5868 and 1-800-369-5868 if you have a question, comment for Mark. And I think we've corrected the phone line with Daryl, so let's go back and see if we can take his call. Daryl joining us from Providence. Welcome to the show, Daryl.
Thank you.
Much better.
Oh, yes, that sounds much better. Yeah.
Great. Question on fertilizing hanging plants in the pots on my front. How much fertilizer liquid should each pot be getting?
That is
a question I've always had.
That's a really great question. So with like hanging baskets, like our 16-inch hanging baskets that we have in front of the store and that we do on Main Street, we give them at least a gallon every time we water those. And if I give them a gallon, it will just absorb all that gallon of water up, and I'll have a little bit draining out the bottom. And so it's really the size of the pot's going to determine how much water you give them. But for like a 12-inch pot, which is considerably smaller than a 16-inch pot, you're probably about a half a gallon to really saturate that soil. And what we try and tell people is don't watch for the water to pour out the bottom, because sometimes the water finds the path of least resistance. And if there's like a little hole or a little channel where the water can run out, it will run down that channel and just right out the bottom instantly, and you think your basket is saturated, and it's not. And so what we'll do when that happens is we'll give them like half the water to allow it to kind of saturate the soil, and then give them the other half maybe 2 or 3 minutes later after it's kind of saturated through. And then when you're done watering the baskets, just go and pick them up. Like if they're hanging from a hook on your front porch, just lift the basket up from the bottom, and you can feel the difference of when it's like wet and heavy, when it's absorbed all that moisture, and when they're lightweight and they really need to be watered. So sometimes we'll tell people, before you water, just pick the baskets up and just kind of see how much they weigh, and then after you water, see how much they weigh in comparison, and then you kind of know how much water is saturating that soil. With the planters, again, the size of the planters, it's difficult to say, but usually you're doing about, for individual plants, a cup to a pint of water for each individual plant. But to saturate the beds, it's going to depend on how much soil is in there for sure with the planters.
So that would be the same for putting the different fertilizers in, like in the formula that you have.
Yeah. So with the fertilizers, if you're doing like a liquid fertilizer, like say Bicor's, Nutri-Green or All-Purpose or their Pro Bloom, we use an ounce per gallon on that, and we will fertilize twice a week. So right now we're doing Tuesdays and Fridays. And so we do a more high nitrogen fertilizer on Tuesdays to get them to cascade and the plants to like kind of crawl. And then on Fridays we'll do a higher phosphorus and potassium to get them to bloom more. So on Tuesdays we're doing crawling, cascading, high nitrogen, and then on Fridays we're doing a high phosphorus potassium to get them to bloom and bloom and bloom. And so we'll fertilize at least twice a week, and sometimes we'll throw a compost tea in on like Saturdays or Wednesdays just to build the soil back up a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You are so welcome. Thanks for waiting, Daryl. We appreciate your patience with the phone lines, and have a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you.
Phone lines are 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. You have a question or comment for Mark as we've been talking about time? You could plant a fruit tree. In fact, great Father's Day gift.
Yes.
And with it being on sale, save a little bit of money as well.
Fruit trees are 30% off right now. Have a great selection of fruit trees. And, fruit trees are awesome gifts because they keep on giving every year.
We started out with a couple apples, then we added a peach, and now we're up to an apricot and a pear. And
it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to see what they produce, and then you get to enjoy them. And then if you have your trees are more mature, you can harvest them and freeze dry.
Mm-hmm.
You can can. A lot of people will freeze some of their fruits as well,
Bottle
too,
them,
or dry them and do like a fruit leather or whatever. I love the fruit leather, but it takes so much work, and then you dry it, and it doesn't seem like there's anything left.
It's like all that work went into that, just that small little product.
This one little roll. It's like, and then you go, and it's like gone.
Mm-hmm. We'll take apricots and then we'll dehydrate them, and they just are perfect for backpacking. I love throwing those in a backpack.
That's the way to go. The dehydrated cherries and apricots and pineapple and mangoes, they're just like the best. Instant energy there. So,
and really sweet tasting. All right, well, Marilyn's joining us on the line from Wellsville, and so Marilyn, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. I have a question about use of the tea.
Yes.
Every time I go to town, I get my container filled, and I love it. I can see a huge difference on plants.
Oh, your plants just love it. It just
they do.
It makes your soil alive, and when your soil's alive, then the plants are able to pick up the nutrient, and it kind of facilitates everything that's happening inside the plants. So I am so glad to hear that, Marilyn.
Oh, thank you. Well, some things that were just mashed this winter, because we had a lot of snow, heavy snow here, and the roses are incredible. But my question is, how frequently? I've been putting it on my trees, full-grown trees, running and putting it around the trunks. I've been almost everything that's dares to show its face is getting the tea. But how much is too much? Is there should we do it like once a week? Should we do it every other day on things that are growing fast? Or we have a large yard, so I could just keep very busy.
That is a really great question. The microbes and the microorganisms and the mycorrhiza that are in the compost tea, they will live in the soil for at least 2 weeks. And so once you kind of get that into the soil around your plants, it will be working for a minimum of 2 weeks. You can do it more frequently. So like when I get my tomatoes planted and my peppers planted, and especially on my giant pumpkins, I'm doing it at least once a week to really get them established and get them going. But once they get going, then I cut way back. You don't have to do it as frequently as well too. But
oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And does it now? Okay, the question about I have a straggly little pine tree that isn't in very good soil, and it hasn't gotten much water over the years. It's not anywhere close to the lawn, so it's just kind of on its own.
Right.
And I started putting tea on it last year, and suddenly it had all kinds of tufts of green
new growth
showing up in it. It was just wonderful.
Yeah.
And I wondered, do you need to water directly after you put the tea on to get it into the soil, or does it hurt if it sits there a day or so till you can get over, run the hose, trickle a hose on it for a little while? What's the best way?
It doesn't need to be watered after using the compost tea because it's got all the water that it's mixed in with already. So it's going to take the place of a traditional watering. So when I water my tomato plants or my giant pumpkin with the compost tea, that's its water for today or for the next couple days. And so But the microbes and the microorganisms that are in there, and the mycorrhiza especially, they will get into the soil and they will encourage root development on your plants. And so those mycorrhiza will make a contract with your plant, and they'll go out in search of water and nutrient, and they will bring it to your plant, and it increases the root system of your plant like exponentially. Like tons of little fine root hairs will just start to develop on those plants that couldn't otherwise. And then the plant is more capable of picking up and utilizing the water that it gets and the nutrient that's there in the soil much better than it could before, because it now has this much, much bigger network of root system that the compost tea has encouraged on it. That's why your evergreen is doing so much better. Its root system is so much more healthy than it was before. It's able to pick up the water and the nutrient that you're giving to it.
When you've got a tree that's got a trunk, say, if you went across the trunk, I'd say it's probably 10 inches.
Yeah.
How much would a serving, I'm going to give it a little serving of tea.
Yes.
How much should I give it?
So when we have people that come in and they're like, okay, we had a major snow event and it broke my tree, and I'm going to have to go in and I'm going to have to prune a whole bunch of it back. So they've had some damage on their tree, whether it's disease or a snow event or something's happened to their tree. We will instruct them to water underneath the canopy, out where the drip line is, with either the compost tea, or I've got the concentrate. You could mix it up and do it yourself for a larger quantity, because you're going to need a much larger quantity than what you're probably getting at the store. You're going to need probably 10 to 15 gallons to saturate the drip line of that tree. But where the drip line is, what will happen is once you get that down into the soil, it will encourage those new fine root hairs, and they will just expand like crazy. And your tree you'll see a difference on your tree as well too. So when I have customers that come in and they're like, my tree got damaged, we had fire blight, or we had this, and they're just really struggling, or I've got 3 trees and 2 are doing great and one's not, and we're not quite sure what's going on, we'll do the same treatment, whether it's the kangaroots or the microbe brew or the compost tea. They all have the same microbes and microorganisms in there. We'll use that on the one that's struggling or got damaged, and all of a sudden it catches up to the other ones.
Oh, that is great. That is just great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
So if you come into the store, I was going to say, if you come in the store, come find me, and I will show you how to brew your own, so you can do it at home if you need larger quantities instead of having to run into the store to get some.
Oh my goodness!
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Super.
I will. Thank
super
you so
easy
much.
to do. All right. Thanks, Marilyn.
Terrific. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Still time to take a couple more calls with about 8 minutes left. 753-5868 or 1-800-369-5868 if you have a question, comment for Mark. We have not talked about one of the biggest pests yet that gardeners are facing, and that's grasshoppers. I was out mowing the lawn. First thing we did when we got back in town was trying to tackle the backyard, and little tiny grasshoppers
everywhere. I think this year is going to be grasshoppers, mosquitoes, and aphids. Aphids have been kind of crazy as well too. So we're seeing tons of samples of aphids, and I'm seeing lots of pictures that people are bringing in of little teeny holes on their plants that the grasshoppers have already made. And I've actually had multiple people taking pictures and bringing those in and zooming in and going, are these grasshoppers?
Yes,
because
they're
they're just tiny right now, but there's tens of thousands of them just getting started. So lots and lots of grasshoppers. Of course, Nolo bait is not available this year, but what a lot of people don't realize is the Nolo bait, as effective as it was, it's kind of slow. It didn't work really fast, and so it would take weeks and sometimes months for it to kill the grasshoppers and prevent them from eating your plants. And so at this point in the season where the grasshoppers are small and very, very aggressive, we can use an insecticide and knock down tens of thousands of them. And so we've been spraying already. A lot of our customers have been coming in, a lot of homeowners coming in, and we've recommended Bug Blaster if you're spraying ornamentals. So if you're just doing turf or flowers or shrubs or trees, and your perimeter of your property to keep those grasshoppers from coming in. The Bug Blaster is stronger and has a longer residual and a really quick knockdown on those. So if I start spraying around my garden and get all the way around my garden and back to where I started, I'll have little dead carcasses already there, maybe 10 minutes. It's
that fast.
Very, very quick.
Wow.
Yeah, very quick. And then you'll get a nice long residual of 2 or 3 or even 4 weeks with that one application of the Bug Blaster. If you want to use it in your vegetables or fruits, things that you're going to be harvesting and consuming later, then we have 2 other options that are safe for edibles. The 7 will work great. So the 7 is safe to use right up to, on most vegetables and fruits, like 24 hours before you harvest. But if you do use the product and then end up harvesting it, just make sure and rinse it off. You just want to wash it, and that will take all the residue of the 7 off. But that's safe to use up to about 24 hours before you pick. And the Sayonara also has a little bit longer limitation from when you spray to when you pick, but also safe on a lot of fruits and vegetables, and super effective. Both those products are really, really effective on the grasshoppers, so you get some good control. The repellents work great, especially if we're going to have mosquitoes this year. The Mosquito Go or Mosquito Beater, they really, really work on mosquitoes, flies, moths, and grasshoppers. So I'll do a spray in and around my garden for like that first initial knock those grasshoppers down, then put the repellent out there, and it prevents them from coming back into my garden for 2-3 weeks sometimes. And totally safe to use in there. It's all essential oils, and they just don't like it. They'll just leave, go to your neighbor's house.
Now, when it comes to using 7, people probably ask you, what do you prefer, the dust or the liquid?
The liquid for the grasshoppers, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, the liquid is much more effective. You can get the tops as well as the undersides of the leaves, and you can cover a much larger area much quicker with the liquid than you can with the dust.
With the dust.
Yeah, with the dust. So the dust is available, but makes my plants look dusty too. I don't.
Yeah.
I like them when they look green and pretty instead of dusty. So.
Okay. So a few ways to be able to tackle the grasshoppers because, they're already everywhere.
And we do have a new bait. It's called Niban. And so the Niban is... it's not certified organic, but it has boric acid in it. So the boric acid is naturally occurring, and it works on all kinds of insects that consume it. And it's very, very safe for like pets and for people and for kids because for us, boric acid, if you consume the boric acid, your body will just pick out the boron that you need since it's a micronutrient. If you're consuming a multivitamin, there's going to be boron in there. It's from boric acid, and it's going to consume what it needs, and then you're going to excrete the rest of it out. And so it doesn't like build up in your tissues or in your body. But for the insects, they can't excrete it out. And so it just stays in there, builds up in their bodies, and it becomes toxic to them, and it kills them.
It kills them.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So
Okay.
so very, very safe. So I had a lot of people are like, okay, if the grasshoppers eat it, and then my dog likes to eat the grasshoppers, if my dog eats the grasshoppers, is it going to hurt my dog? Absolutely not. Yeah, and if a bird flies in and eats the bait that you've put out there, it will not hurt the birds either because they can also excrete it, but the insects
can't handle it.
Can't, yeah.
Okay.
And so it kills them. So it's used by professional exterminators for like cockroaches and silverfish and ants and all kinds of insects that get into your home. And so it's really safe to use around the house, but non-toxic for people. So it's a really great bait. It's called Niban. Use 1 pound per about 1,000 square feet, and it's been very effective so far. But usually what I tell people is make sure that if the free buffet is going and the grasshoppers have 15 things to choose from, it's one of 15.
Right.
Might be more like the hot dog bar for them at the buffet when you're going, God, that prime rib looks really, really good. So I'm gonna go get that. So the hot dog bar gets kind of left left behind, until like the prime rib's gone. And you're like, maybe I'll have a hot dog.
No, come back.
Yeah, so we want to wait until their food source starts to dry up before we put the bait out there. So maybe towards the end of this month, it's going to be much more effective than it will right now because there's tons of green, leafy, beautiful stuff, and the foothills are still green and lush and nice. So until we get some really hot temperatures and the grass starts to brown up, it's very attractive to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
that's how that
excellent options to try to take care of your grasshoppers. In the last minute we have, let's just mention again, sale today on fruit trees at Anderson's, and what else?
Fruit trees are on sale. We have some gorgeous new marigolds. We just got a whole bunch of beautiful perennials in. So we've got some gaillardia, and we got just tons of different perennials to choose from. Got some new raspberries in, and all the vegetables are in stock right now. So we have all those vegetables. So if you had a little frost damage, or if your plants are struggling, or you just didn't get them planted, we have lots to choose from, whether it's tomatoes, peppers, squashes, melons, cucumbers. We've got all those. And compost tea's brewing at the store. And store is like completely full of plants and ready for some planting this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot going on downtown. Don't forget the tree climbing competition over at the Tabernacle grounds this afternoon. Till about 3 o'clock.
Till about 3 o'clock, yep. Summerfest is next weekend, so that's going to start Thursday.
Okay.
So we'll have some activities going on. Wednesday markets started up on Center Street as well,
That's
too.
right,
Yeah,
yeah.
so Wednesday markets started up, so don't forget about coming down on Wednesday. And we'll be back next week.
Going on.
Yeah.
And we hope to have you join us then next Saturday.